So it's only March, but I feel like it's been a cracking start to the year for horror. We've had Companion, we've had The Monkey. If you're not in the US, we've had Nosferatu. All come out and receive really quite strong reviews and support. And now we get the very funny Josh Ruben's take on a rom-com slasher that I personally think hit like every mark. Like, we're truly blessed. We're truly blessed. Last year was such a strong year for horror, and I feel like we're going to keep it up. I feel like we're going to keep momentum. If you don't know Josh Ruben, he is a very, very funny improv comic, and he's also a horror super fan. If you're not subscribed to Dropout, you are missing out. It's fucking hilarious TV. But you should at least go YouTube Josh Ruben Make Some Noise, because that motherfucker makes me giggle. It's really good. He's hilarious. And he starred in and directed a few horrors before this, Scare Me and Werewolves Within. I haven't seen Werewolves Within. I didn't love Scare Me, to be honest, but I heard Werewolves Within was a better outing, so after this, maybe I will go back and watch it. But so I was quite tempered going into this film. You know, I didn't have these crazy expectations or anything, but I was like, okay, this will be a bit of fun. And I like slashers, but I'm not like a slasher lover. Like, I'm not a fucking hardcore, slasher dude. So, I was like expecting a midway piece. I thought this was fucking fantastic. This got me from the first scene that takes place in a vineyard, which is very funny, and very gory. And it did not let me go the entire film. It's also it's like 90 minutes, which is great for a slasher. Very clever. It's fantastic. It would make a perfect double bill with a Companion. I know lots of people were like pitting them against each other because they came out the same week, but I think you could do Companion because it's lighter and probably more a comedy than it is a horror. And then you could follow up with Hard Eyes, because Hard Eyes is meaner and gorier and also funny. You know what I mean? Like, it is the perfect lead up. I think that's how you do that double bill. The best thing about this movie is it understands the genres it's mashing so well. This is a full-on slasher. This is not like what I think a lot of movies where they mix horror and comedy fuck up, is that they either do just a horror, like they'll just do a rom-com with enough horror to say that it's a horror comedy, or they'll do full slasher, full horror, and then they will put a few comedy bits in it, and it makes the tone awkward and doesn't work. This is full on down the slasher road, full on down the rom-com road. It is fucking perfect how seamlessly they've blended it. It really earns both genres, I feel, and it's mean, it's gory, it's really funny, and it perfectly skewers both genres, which is really important. Like, this is a very don't worry, we know what we're doing movie, and it really worked for me. I'm so excited for Josh that this has got support. It looks like they're going to make another one, which is awesome, because he just seems like a really good dude. I listened to some interviews with him, and unfortunately for him, really horrible. The same week this came out, he lost his home in the LA fires, which is awful. So I'm hoping this is the start of a streak of wonderful good fortunes for Josh Ruben, because he does really seem like a gem of a human. And this movie is such a strong outing for any horror director. I fucking loved it. I mean, even the premise for this movie is quite witty and funny. Ali, played wonderfully by Olivia Holt, is a marketing project manager who is working for a jewelry company. She's made this whole marketing campaign about like eternal love and death. And unfortunately, that campaign is shot to shit when a serial killer emerges called the Hard-Eyes Killer, whose whole MO is basically going after and murdering couples on Valentine's Day. So to save the marketing campaign, a marketing prodigy named Jay, played by Mason Gooding, is brought in to work with Ali against her will. And after a unfortunately timed non-romantic kiss, the Hard-Eyes Killer sees these two, sees that the chemistry is so high, and decides that they're next on the chopping block, which is such a hilarious premise, and it does a really good job of so in rom-coms you usually get the Will they, won't they? Are they going to get together? Are they going to move in? Is it going to be a happy ending? You usually get that theme. And this sort of turns that on their head because it's these two people with amazing chemistry trying to convince a masked serial killer that they do not have the hots for each other. And it's a fucking really good premise. 12 out of 10, no notes. I really worked for me. So in case you couldn't tell, I loved this movie. I thought it was fun as hell. I thought it stands up where a lot of horror comedies fall down, and that is knowing when to go hard into the romance and comedy and knowing when to ramp up the tension. This does both perfectly. Olivia Holt and Mason Gooding have such good chemistry. It could have been created by Heisenberg in a lab. And all the scenes where Ali and Jay sort of have these awkward rom-com style encounters, like they're so sweet you want to roll your eyes back and take fucking diabetes medication, but they're perfect. Like, they work perfectly. And then the next, 20 seconds later, you're following a character stalking down a hallway and you're just waiting for Hard Eyes to jump out and decapitate someone or something. Both of those types of scenes in this movie work really well. It is like two songs of different genres perfectly remixed together. And you know how fucking hard that is to do. There's no awkward mismatch of tones or score. The whole movie feels like one seamless movie. It's really good. The kills are fantastic. There are some absolutely horrific kills in this. And I love seeing creative kills in slashers. That's why most people like going to see slashers. You have them in this. They're phenomenal. All the comedy lines hit perfectly for me. There is a really funny scene in the back of a cop car and another one in the back of a van. There's a really funny reference to Fast and Furious that I was not expecting, but is such a Josh Ruben prompt. It is perfect for this movie. The pacing is also perfect for a slasher, right? I don't like when slashers stick around too long. You want fast, cheap kills. Let's fucking go. This clocks in at about 90 minutes and the pacing is perfect. It never stayed too long on any scene. And by God, is the soundtrack a banger. It's got Genuine, it's got Outkast, it's got Casey and the Sunshine Band, the Supremes. They all make an appearance and they're all used exactly how you think they would, which is great. They understand the vibe we are trying to make here, and it's really good. The design of the killer, Hard Eyes design himself with the glow-in-the-dark hard eyes, it's stellar. It's really stellar. I think we might have another iconic killer on our hands. I'm gonna hazard a guess and say there's gonna be a shit ton of Hard Eyes costumes come this Halloween, which is great. I love it. Pumps money into the horror community. And if you love rom-coms or you love horrors, like slashers in general, you're going to see a lot of good head nods to the best movies of both genres. You know what I mean? There are scenes from all the best movies from both genres. You're like, oh, that's a little nod to this. It's fucking great. It's really, really good. It's really well done. The only thing I didn't love about Hard Eyes is that the ending felt a little bit comic booky for me. Now, that's a me problem. Josh Ruben went for exactly what he wanted. That's exactly what he was intending. But because the rest of the film is so seamless, I did think parts of the ending felt a little bit wooden for me, but it's such a small part of the film, and like all the best rom-coms, it's the journey to get up to the finale, right, that you're really interested in. You want lots of Ali and Jay. That is what sells this sort of movie, and they absolutely nail that. You want to see them all the time. They're so fucking good in this, both of them. I have gone on to listen to many interviews with Olivia Holt and Mason Gooding, and they both seem like great people. I think I've joined what I'm sure is almost everyone on the planet Earth who is interested in men, but I've developed a little bro crush on Mason Gooding. He's so articulate. He's such a fan of horror. When he talks about horror, you can tell he gets excited, and it's almost like sometimes the interviewers have to shut him up, which is great because that's what you want. You want that for people who are in horrors. That's what you want. And let's be honest, he's a stone cold dime piece. He's a beautiful, beautiful man. He's a new favorite Scream King of mine. There's a really good, Mostly Horror podcast. I don't know if anyone listens to that, but you should. It's fucking great. They do a really good interview with him, and it's really good. I love those guys. But yeah, if you like romance and comedies, you should, and horror, fucking hard to beat this one. I recommend watching this if you love rom-coms and horror. Good for you. Good for you for diversifying your palette. Look at you, you little Renaissance person. I got to be more like you. This is great. This does both really well. If you love slashers with like a cool aesthetic, let's be honest, Jason's, Mike Myers, they're the fucking kings of that shit for me. This is like that. This is a really, really good aesthetic. This is from a design perspective, character design perspective. It's beautiful. If you love Josh Ruben, he's one of my sweet noise boys. I love him dearly, along with Brennan and Zach. I just love him. He definitely support this film for Josh Ruben too. It's good to see. I love it when fans of horror go on to work in the horror space. I fucking love that shit, and that's what he's done. I do not recommend watching this if you want a straight up horror movie. There are really good kills in this, and there is lots of gore, but it is played for comedic effect at times. The kills are fantastic, but the tone is very comedy as well. If you hate fun, stay away from this movie, you big old Grinch. I do get it though. I do get it. Lots of people just want absolutely soul-destroying movies when they watch horror. Like, go watch Snowtown or fucking Funny Games or something. This is not for you. This is very much a fun time popcorn movie. It would be a perfect date night movie. Recommendations. If you liked this movie, I highly recommend the 2015 horror comedy The Final Girls. This movie never gets enough love when horror comedies are talked about. I fucking love this movie. It is directed by Todd Strauss-Schulston, and he's a guy who directed like one of the Harold and Kumars. He did some seasons of The In-Betweeners. It's fucking fantastic. It's about a girl named Max who loses her mother Nancy in a tragic accident. Nancy was famous for being a scream queen in the 80s, and on the anniversary of her death, the local cinema decides to show Camp Bloodbath, Nancy's most famous film, and invites Max and all her friends. And due to some real 90s after-school special shenanigans, the crew gets sucked into the film where they have to basically survive a slasher and try to save Max's mum, Nancy. This movie's so sweet, it's so heartfelt, it's fucking funny, it's got a stellar cast. And it's one of those movies that if you love horror, you can just watch it and point out, oh, that's from this, that's from this. It's a movie that loves horror. Like Cabin in the Woods, it's a movie that loves horror movies and understands them and puts little Easter eggs everywhere, which is really fun. It's also got one of the funniest strip teasers of all time in any movie ever. It's so good. Another fitting recommendation, strictly because it's a Olivia Holt horror comedy, is Totally Killer. I think I like this movie more than most people did. It's a Blumhouse movie. It's about Jamie, played by Sherman Shipka, who was in Longlegs, also really good in The Blackcoat's Daughter. And Jamie's mother, Pam, is killed by the Sweet 16 killer, which was a killer who terrorized Pam and her high school back in the 80s, but has come 30 years later for revenge to finish the job. So Pam ended up getting murdered by this killer 30 years after the fact, and Jamie, due to some real Dexter's Laboratory type science, Jamie travels back in time to high school to stop the killer and save her mum and her friends. And this movie is really fucking funny. It's full of hilarious scenes about how fucked up and un-PC the 80s were. And that's a recurring gag that never got old to me in this film. There's so many good jokes set around it. If you like Hard Eyes, I think you'll really like this movie because it's got lots of horror stars in it. It's got a really cool masked killer. It's got some horrendously annoying teens, which is basically, that's like the trifecta. The trifecta of horror slashers is that, and I think it's a really good movie. That's it. Let me know what you thought about Hard Eyes if you have seen it. I'm so glad it's getting love. I hope it makes all the fucking money in the world. Hope to see you next week for another review. Peace.